Om Tat Sat. A very good morning to all. Also, a good morning, afternoon, or a good evening to all the people who have joined online across the time zones. So, on behalf of Preksha Pratishtana and Gokhale Institute of Public Affairs, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to you all. So, before we transition to the main event, I'd like to call Sri Kashyap Nayak, one of our trustees and also the legal advisor of Preksha Pratishtana, to render the invocation.
अर्थचतुष्टय शिक्षा अर्थचतुष्टय शिक्षा साक्षात्कृत यज्ञदान तपसां दीक्षा अर्थचतुष्टय शिक्षा साक्षात्कृत यज्ञदान तपसां दीक्षा वाग्वृत्तित्रय रक्षा वाग्वृत्तित्रय रक्षा प्रेक्षा सौजयति प्रेक्षा सौजयति भारती पदलाक्षा भारती पदलाक्षा अर्थचतुष्टय शिक्षा प्रेक्षा सौजयति प्रेक्षा सौजयति प्रेक्षा सौजयति
Thank you, Kashyap, for that wonderful rendering. For the uninitiated, Preksha Pratishtana is an organization with the primary goal of making Indian culture and heritage accessible to one and all. We do this by publishing original research and also producing lucid English translations of valuable literature written in Indian languages. So our main activity happens through the website preksha.in, which features articles on Indian art, culture, literature, history, and philosophy. As an organization like Preksha, we can only function when we have the magnanimity of our patrons and also the advice of our scholarly advisors. So first, we would like to thank all of them. So let's start to thank the advisors and the patrons. So firstly, we want to thank Sri MP Kumar from the Developmental Foundation, Sri Sudhakar Joyce, Sri Vamanacharya, Sri Nirupama, Srimati Nirupama and Sri Rajendra, Dr. Shobha Shashikumar and Sri V. Nagaraj. We have been guided by an erudite panel of advisors, starting from Dr. S.L. Bhairappa, Nadoja Dr. S.R. Ramaswamy, Shatavadani Dr. R. Ganesh, Dr. T.S. Satyavati, Dr. S.R. Leela, Professor L.V. Shantkumari, and Sri Sandeep Balakrishna. So, I'd like to introduce the agenda today and also introduce the guests who are on stage. So, the agenda today will be, we are offering 3 books. One is an English translation of Jivana Dharma Yoga, which is a commentary on Bhagavad Gita by DVG. It is translated by Sri Raghavendra Hebbalalu and Srimati Srilalita Rupanagudi to English. Then we have the Essential Ramayana, a summarized translation of the critical text of Valmiki Ramayana by Sri Arjun Bharadwaj. And we finally have the Ananda Sutras, a translation of a collection of talks rendered under the title Anandamaya Jeevanakke Bharatiya Maulyagalu by Shatavadani Dr. R. Ganesh, and it has been adapted to English by Sri Arjun Sharma and Harish Kumar. So now I'd like to introduce all the dignitaries on stage. We are indeed fortunate to have Professor K.S. Kannan as our chief guest. So Professor Kannan isn't an alien to this stage. He has graced this very venue as a speaker, delivering expert and scholarly lectures, and also as a pruchaka in many avadhanas. But a more detailed and formal introduction is the order of the day. So Professor Kannan is a Sanskrit scholar par excellence. Till recently, he was the Sant Rajendra Singh Ji Maharaj Chair Professor in IIT Madras. Before that, he has been in various positions of importance, such as the academic director of the Swadeshi Indology Conference Series, the director of Karnataka Sanskrit University, and the head of the department of the Sanskrit department in the national colleges, to name a few. He has also been a widely sought out expert in various Vidyasthanas and has served in committees, boards, and senates of various organizations and universities. He has authored and edited several books and academic papers benefiting the scholars and students alike. So some of the Shastric works like Akhyata Chandrika, Krudanta Rupa Kosha, Dhatu Rupa Kosha, Lakarartha Nirnaya, and so on bear the testimony of his uncanny skill to simplify, condense, but still render high quality content in rigorous form. Likewise, his translations of poetic works like the fifth canto of the Kumara Sambhava, Mathura Vijaya, Hamsa Sandesha, etc. introduces to us the connoisseur in him. So he is a recipient of many distinguished awards, including Vidyanidhi conferred by Sri Sri Rangapriya Swamiji. It is not a coincidence that so many of us in our groups have been his students formally at some point of time and informally forever. In fact, 3 people on stage were his students at some point of time. So Srimati Srilalita, Arjun Sharma, and also Harish Kumar. So indeed, it is apt to quote the verse in praise of Appaya Dikshita by Neelakanta Dikshita, which says, Yam vidma iti yadgranthan abhyasyamo kilaniti yasya shishyasma iti cha shlagante cha vipaschitaha. So scholars were so indebted to Appaya Dikshita that they would proudly say that we knew him, we studied all of his works, we were his students, and so on. So we can also say the same things about Professor Kannan. So next I'd like to introduce the author and translators present on the stage. So Shatavadani R. Ganesh is an Avadhani par excellence, poet, polymath, and is one of our advisors. Like everyone else, I can only express my helplessness when it comes to introducing the various facets of this genius. So we all are happy that we know him and he also knows us. So if not for him, in all probability, many aspects of the Indian culture would have been as familiar to us as the Sentinelese people in the North Sentinel Island, which is a part of Andaman and Nicobar. So next we move on to our translators. So Arjun Bharadwaj is an author, translator, and a scholar in various aspects related to Indian culture, art forms, and he is one of the contributing editors of Preksha. So while the original Arjuna needed some constant prodding and persuasion from Sri Krishna in the form of Bhagavad Gita, Anu Gita, and so on, our Arjuna has not wavered even once from his Swadharma. So he has authored and translated many books and research papers. The essential Mahabharata, which he co-translated with Hari, has also won an award for the best translation. So Sri Raghavendra Hebbalalu is an engineer by profession, working with McAfee. He is also a translator, poet, a Sahridaya, and an ardent student of Sanskrit and classical music. He likes to keep himself updated with the latest in science and technology. Srimati Srilalita Rupanagudi is the better half of Sri Raghavendra Hebbalalu. She is also an engineer by profession, working with the company ARM. She is also a poet, a translator, a Sahridaya, and a serious student of Carnatic music under the tutelage of Dr. T.S. Satyavati, who is here. So both Sri Raghavendra and Srimati Srilarita have rendered human service as Karyakartas in Samskrita Bharati in promoting and spreading the joy of Sanskrit. So Sri Arjun Sharma is also a software engineer by profession, working as a technical product manager with Booking.com. He moonlights as a stand-up comedian. He also has an abiding interest in humor, literature, and music. Sri Harish Kumar, again a software professional and an entrepreneur, with an abiding interest in anything which is Indian classical, and of course anything related to humor. So both Arjun Sharma and Harish Kumar have been content creators for the past 15 to 20 years, even before that phrase content creator came into vogue. They have been creating various comedy sketches on their channel Mindri, and recently they have also been hosts of a podcast called Vichitra Manjari. So with this brief introduction, I'd like to request our chief guest, along with the dignitaries on the stage, to offer the books to the world. As a token of respect, I'd like to ask one of our trustees, Sri KBS Ramachandra, to give away complimentary copies to some of the dignitaries who are in the audience. So firstly, we would like to present a copy to Nadoja Dr. S.R. Ramaswamy. So next, we want to present a complimentary copy to Dr. T.S. Satyavati. Next, we would like to present a copy to Sri V. Nagaraj, the Honorary Secretary of JIPA and also Mythic Society. Srimati Nirupama and Sri Rajendra. Sri Sudhakar Joyce. So we have been immensely helped in many aspects of publishing, editing, designing sketches, and also providing adequate feedback to our books. So as a mark of our gratitude, we would also like to give complimentary copies to some of our friends who have helped us. We'd like to give complimentary copies to Srinidhi Ramchandra. I'd like to call Sri Shakaranta, one of our trustees, to give the complimentary copies. Sri Vigneshwar Bhatt. Sri Ganesh Bhatt Kopaltota. His wife Sumana would be receiving the copies. Some of our young friends have helped us immensely, especially in the work, The Essential Ramayana. So we want to call upon them to present complimentary copies. Again, I'd like to ask Sri Shakaranta to present them. So Kumari Hamsa Bhatt. Sri Gauri. Okay. Sri Gauri Srivastava. Kumari Hamsa Bhatt, Sudhamshu Ramprasad, so before I leave the stage to our esteemed speakers, I'd like to make an important announcement. So the books which have been offered to the world today are available for sale with a special discount. So Jivana Dharma Yoga is priced at rupees 750. The Essential Ramayana is priced at rupees 300. Ananda Sutras at rupees 60. And a combo consisting of all the three is priced at rupees 1050. We also have all our other publications available in the outside. The interested people can buy them from the stall. So with this, I'd like to first call Professor Kannan to address the gathering.
श्रीरंगे शोभते यस्य श्रीरंगे शोभते च यः नमोऽहं कलये तस्मै नमोऽहं कलये ततः जगद्रणाङ्गणे यस्य स्मरणं जयकारणं पार्थसारथये तस्मै श्रीकृष्णब्रह्मणे नमः. Namaskar all of you. There are very many eminent persons on stage, off stage. My humble salutations to all of you. In particular, Shatavadhani Ganesh, Nadoja S.R. Ramaswamy, V. Nagaraj, Dr. Satyavati, many others luminaries are in this august audience. I consider it a great privilege conferred upon me to release these three excellent books today. This is almost like a family gathering. It is as it were, the dream of Dr. DVG has come true. We can find here an embodiment in this gathering and in the key participants in this program today. The epigrammatic statement of Dr. DVG coming true, who said, Hale Beru Hosa Chiguru. So we have in our midst Nadoja S.R. Ramaswamy, who was himself a direct disciple of DVG, and it is because of him that we could get this great work, Jivana Dharma Yoga of DVG, well presented. The trouble he has taken to prepare a detailed contents and an excellent index. These are not easy tasks, and S.R. Ramaswamy ji has done a human service in presenting this work in this form, so to the world. And alongside, we find youngsters like Sri Lalita and others who have translated this work, Arjun Bharadwaj, the other Arjun and Harish and so on, our dear friend Raghavendra Hebbalalu. Every one of these have done an excellent contribution, and we see the continuation from DVG up to perhaps Harish, who may be youngest here, I do not know. So Arjun, yeah, the youngest, yes. So the statement of Dr. DVG, Hale Beru Hosachiguru, with the same life sap running through, is something which is more than evident today. And therefore, this is almost like a family gathering of 3 generations or 4 generations of scholars, so who are bound by a common thread of a respect and a fondness for our great tradition and culture. I have only one complaint to make. The books reached me rather late, and therefore I have not been able to go through the books in full, but I can understand the difficulty to produce 3 works in a short period and to get them all ready. Sometimes we fix the deadlines first, and if we don't fix the deadlines, things get prolonged, endlessly. And if we fix deadlines, we have to fight to stick to the deadline. So that's a very understandable thing. Often we should become our own bosses, and that is what is very difficult. So we have to set deadlines for ourselves, and we get slack. So if there is no external force, sometimes we keep postponing things. With all our good intentions, we don't accomplish things that we really can, even within the stipulated period. So I can very well understand the cause of the delay in producing, and I also have a small limitation myself, namely that I would be happy reading a printed copy of a book rather than reading it online, though I do read online. So I often need to make markings in the margins and make my own comments for future references and so on. And even though it is possible to do comments even in PDFs and all that, still my own preference has been to printed matter and make their markings there and so on. And therefore, there have been occasions when I have taken printouts of books that are already available on the net and have the physical copy and go through them and make my markings, etc. So that way, the copies arrived a bit late, but the 2 volumes of the Ramayana and Jivana Dharma Yoga are quite voluminous, and even to the content that was provided to me, I can't say that I'll be able to do full justice, but I will definitely give it a try in the form of a sthali pulaka nyaya, and even by a taste of a small portion, you can just easily imagine the quality and the quantity of the work that has been produced. I also have an intimate connection with quite a few persons here. Srilita was my own student, and that was some 30 years ago. She was my student, and Arjun's mother was my student. So all these only go to show that I'm quite old. Okay. And Dr. Satyavati was my classmate. So this is a sort of a family gathering, as I told you just now. And the presence of S.R. Ramaswamy has been an ornament to our program today. And the intimate connection of Nadoja S.R. Ramaswamy to this program is very evident. Of course, he was the honorary secretary of this very institution, Gokhale Institute, so for quite some time. And I remember the day when Ganesh himself, myself, Surya Prakash Pandit, and S.R. Leela, so all went to request S.R. Ramaswamy to adorn the post of the secretaryship here. So we had gone to his office in Rashtrathana and we made a request to him. And in his typical manner, he neither said yes nor said no, and had a stiff face, and we couldn't clearly figure out whether he was accepting or not accepting. But then he did an excellent and extraordinary job here. And it is his preamble that adorns the book, the English version of Jivana Dharma Yoga. And the other book, Arjun's work, is dedicated to him. And that way he is organically related to all the happenings here today, in the past, and in the future also. Now it's my task to introduce the three books here. The first one, of course, I have got I got only some printouts of these books. This is Ananda Sutras of Ganesh. I don't have to say much about Ganesh. I think it will be utterly superfluous and redundant to speak about Ganesh in this august auditorium, which is used to Dr. Ganesh every now and then, and therefore, the less I speak about the book, the better. But one thing I can certainly tell, that it contains this small booklet. So I think I was also present when he gave these lectures here. So the lectures were given in 2005. That was also the year when I gave a series of lectures on Ananda Kumar Swami here. Some 5 lectures on Ananda Kumar Swami I gave in this very premises. So it was in the same year, 2005, that Ganesh has given these talks. And you can see, today you find a spate of books on self-help and self-improvement and whatnot. So, and there is such a plethora of production of books that you are, number one, spoiled for choice, and number two, you can't really figure out which is good and which is bad and so on. So, but this one book contains a distilled wisdom of many of such books, but the primary difference is that this is approached from the point of view of our heritage. And therefore, this book is something that every one of us should read. And I just now inquired, the book has not been published in Kannada. So this is so this is straight away a translation from his recorded speech into English. And the books are all very well produced. I don't know how to utter my words of praise for Preksha. So, yeah. So, Patanjali in his Mahabhashya at every step uses the word Prekshavantaha, Prekshavan, etc. So the person endowed with the grand vision, so the person who is able to look into the future, so anticipate, and so to be, they say in English, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. So that way, a person who can anticipate things that are to happen, so is also a person who can be very well described as a very careful person. And therefore, these are productions not done in any great hurry. So in spite of the quantity of production, you can see that these productions are all very deep. So they consider the issues of life in a very deep manner, and what's most important, so they're through and through so informed by values of our heritage and our culture. So in this book, you find, for example, and in fact, right at the outset, it has been very clearly claimed that nothing is original here, and everything that has been said is already a part of our tradition. And so these are the words of Dr. Ganesh himself. In this slender booklet, I have presented a few nuggets from our intangible heritage, and I claim no originality or ownership. It is a sacred and joyful duty of one and all to imbibe, nourish, and perpetuate these values for the betterment of the world around us. So this concern for the betterment of the world around us, which includes ourselves also, so is something very significant and something that is drastically missing in many of the intellectuals today. So while we are coming with our dear friend Chandrasekhar, we were discussing, this has become the age of guarantees, and it is a sort of a competitive socialism today. And in the midst of this, the deep values of life will all get eroded and corroded. And therefore, everybody wants freebies rather than work hard and make some true contribution to our society. So this freebie culture is something that is worsening. And against such a contest, the stress on values. So Ganesh goes into the very origin of the word maulya. So how it is derived from mula, and even goes to the Latin root valor, and makes a differentiation between facts and values. And he often quotes at key points. He has quoted Professor Hiriyana. So facts are apprehended and values are realized. So even the definition of value towards the end of the book, he gives a definition of value. So something which is not an end in itself is not a value. And moksha, absolute liberation, is the ultimate value. And therefore, books like this, not many available. So they cover the entire gamut of life here and life hereafter, and they bring out the essential values that are required for our life. So, for example, the section on dharma, Ananda, and so on. So he even takes into account the concept of avasthatraya that has been expounded in our Upanishads, and the sutras like accepting the inevitable, for example, that is shown as the first sutra. So in the Bhagavad Gita, we hear Krishna often advising Arjuna, tasmad apariharyerthe natvam shochitam arhasi. And therefore, when we get to know that something is inevitable, so unavoidable, then bear with it. So that is one key to happiness. And therefore, this is a primary Ananda Sutra. And he brings out the various shades of the meaning of dharma. And he also brings out, even such mundane matters as, for example, chewing food for a longer time leads to our hunger being satisfied with lesser intake. Now, Ayurveda insists on that. So, if you consume food in a very fast manner, so these are the days of fast food darshanis and other places. So we don't have the time to even relish the food. You can see many people eating in darshanis, so every now and then looking at their watch. So they are always in a hurry. Yeah. So such things happen, but Ayurveda has insisted that one must relish the food, and it's only then that becomes satmya. So it's not a question of mere ingestion, it's a question of digestion. So the patience, for example, that a garland maker will need to do it, so will need to prepare the garland. So these things, even the small things, so Ganesh has brought out very well. And the Brahmi Sthiti, which has been highly commended in the Bhagavad Gita, he makes a reference to that. And life as play is another chapter. And one, I think, the most important one in this book is the company of classics. So, Ganesh is not a person who is merely giving advice to others, himself not following the same. So he's always immersed in the classics, and therefore he is the right person to show us the value of classics. And he brings out many dharma sukshmas in the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. So, and the question of, for example, the more important dharma and the less important dharma, for example, in the play of the game of dice, there is also a sort of a Rajadharma. So once challenged, one should not not accept the challenge. And at the same time, what happened to the Prajahita in the context? And therefore, so that is a greater dharma. And therefore, all these issues are discussed in sufficient detail. He makes a reference to the Ananda Mimamsa in Taittiriya Upanishad, so where there is a beautiful gradation from Manusha Ananda. So to tell you the truth, even the starting point, the most minimal Manusha Ananda itself cannot be realized by any one of us today. So, of course, you must note that the Upanishad starts with yuva syat sadhu yuva dhyayakaha. So starting from that, so we lack even that discipline. The person who utterly lacks discipline can really not enjoy life, and therefore enjoyment in life begins with a certain discipline. And Sarva Sarveyam Prithvi Vrittena Purna Syat. All of this is for you. Well, that is Manusha Ananda, that's the most minimal one. And from then it goes on, see, powers of 10 and so on, and leads to Brahmananda. And that is why the book ends with moksha as the absolute value. So, this is a very small book, but at the same time draws attention to some of the very important values of life, and I am very happy that this book has come out. So I will not speak much about either Ganesh or this book. So because you all know, you have been listening to Ganesh so very regularly, and therefore you will be quite familiar with his ideas and approaches and the depth with which he analyzes and the content of his presentation and the manner of his presentation. All these have a certain inimitable value, and therefore I do not have to dwell much on Dr. Ganesh's work. So we know the excellences of Ganesh so very well, and first I thought of making a note of all the excellences and accomplishments of Ganesh, so as available from Wikipedia, as available in the references to these books and so on. And then I thought it was all redundant because this audience is quite familiar with that. So a man of extraordinary achievements. And to summarize all his accomplishments, one can use the pet epithet of S.R. Ramaswamiji, so who says he is a Vidval Lokada Vismaya. So he is a wonder among in the very world of scholarship. So that one small phrase summarizes the lifetime accomplishment and achievement and excellences of Dr. Ganesh, and therefore I will not speak much on that. On the other hand, I would like to speak on Arjun's work and Sri Lita and Raghavendra, their work. I should not forget to admire the translators Harish Kumar and Arjun Sharma. Both of them are engineers. It is as though Ganesh has been very partial to engineers. So he hounds. Yeah. So my teacher Rangapriya Swamiji used to call it engineering. so it is Anjaneya who accomplished many things which others could not accomplish, and somehow Ganesh, himself an engineer, has been hunting and hounding engineers, and so collecting them all and getting excellent work done. It is very difficult. See, typically Ganesh talks would have been attended by people, say, of my age with grey hair and fallen teeth or whatever. So, and you couldn't expect people to listen to serious talks attended by youngsters. So, as if with a magnetic force, he has been able to draw many youngsters to not just come and listen to his talks, but involve themselves in good and serious work, which is of value and use and things which are abiding. And therefore, this is not a very small achievement. I have heard that the senior Kanchi Swamiji used to honor Vedic scholars. He would search for Vedic scholars, and he would say that you are the ones who are protecting our tradition. At the same time, he would put another important question: how many Vedic scholars have you trained? That was the more important question for him. Rather than himself being a gigantic Vedic scholar who was a Ganapati in all the Vedic literature and all that, he would first put the question, how many have you been able to train? So if you are able to attract so many people, especially youngsters, and train them, so put them on a good groove and make them, enable them, inspire them, support them, give strength and succor to them to toe the right line, work hard. All this requires hard work. Sri Lita and Raghavendra, I'm sorry, I often say the name of Sri Lilita because she was my student, and Raghavendra has an equal or perhaps a greater contribution in the work that they have made. They have taken a full 3 years to produce this work. It is extremely difficult to have a steady pursuit like that. So off and on, suppose some deadline comes, say, in 1 week. So you can miss your night sleep for 1 or 2 days and work hard day and night and accomplish that. But to be able to do something with a dogged pursuit for this long is by no means an easy task. And that they have been able to do, and that, as per their own acknowledgement, the source of inspiration for them is Dr. Ganesh, is a matter that bespeaks very highly of the accomplishments of Ganesh, both at an individual, personal level and at a level of galvanizing people, especially the youngsters, to take to some serious work so pertain to our heritage. See, just say 20-25 years ago, speaking positively about our heritage was not something which was very welcome in various media and so on. But even in such contexts, I have been watching the work of Ganesh for decades, and I have seen how steady he has been, and on many occasions, both at a personal level and on occasions like this, I have particularly commended his ability to attract youngsters towards the deep values of our culture, even to be able to appreciate, say, Kannada poetry, especially the one written in Halaganada language. So even that is very difficult. But today we have a batch of people who can compose poetry, whereas even the Kannada professors in the university departments are not able to figure out the sense of the Halaganada verses. We have here people who are able to compose in those age-old classical meters and bringing out verses that vie with them. So Ganesh has brought in a sort of a new addiction. So we had Madhyapana, we have Padyapana now. So which Ganesh has instilled in so many people, and that speaks volumes for the achievements of Ganesh, and I don't have to tell much about this book. Now coming to the other two works, which are rather voluminous. So the Ananda Sutras is a small book. So coming to the other two works, so of Arjun Bharadwaj and Raghavendra and Sri Lilita, I am really very happy to be associated with this very program because something very valuable has been produced. Now, this book, Arjun's book, as I said, dedicated to S.R. Ramaswamiji, so a man of 86 years, young I should say. So his spirit is unflagging. So though he is generally very reticent, he really overflows with knowledge, and much more than that, that gambhirya that he has, so not showing anything. So many people, even with a modicum of knowledge, tend to show off what little they know. But on the other hand, the kind of gambhirya that S.R. Ramaswamy has is something that is highly commendable. Now, the first thing that I could feel, even going through the copy that was supplied to me, so is the good production of the book. So especially when I hold the book in hand, I can see the good production of the book. One thing that I would appreciate is the quick availability of the table of contents in any book. Now you can see that books that used to be produced till recently, say recently means about 20 years or 30 years ago, you'd have a preface, a prelude, a preamble, a foreword, so an introduction and all that, and the table of contents comes in page 25 or page 64 and so on. it's difficult to get to the page, the page of the table of contents itself. But I think this tradition in Kannada of having a table of contents right at the beginning was, see, you can see that in Tinam Shri's book, in Bharatiya Kavya, so soon after the page of dedication, sometimes even before the page of dedication, you first have the table of contents and you know what you are holding in your hand and what it contains and where it is and so on. Now, that's a very beautiful thing for me. Now, it has become the international standard now. So, earlier, even in the West, books used to be produced with long introductions and you would have to search for the page of the table of contents. And here, right at the outset, you know what the book has to present to you and where it is and so on. I consider it as a very important point in copy editing a book. So, the value of the great work Ramayana, I do not have to say. So we all are aware of this great work. Now, what Manu said, Yetaddesha prasutasya sakashad agrajanmanaham swam charitram shiksheran sarva prithiviyam sarva manavaham. So all human beings all over the earth will have lessons to learn from the agrajanmans of this land. So now that task has been taken up by Valmiki excellently, and his presentation of the one character Rama, of course he has a variety of characters, so that bespeaks of the extraordinary poetic abilities of this age, as also the deep insight into life the poet had. And the statement that we find about the Ramayana is that it arises from the mountain top, Valmiki Giri Sambhuta, Ramasagara Gamini, Punati Bhunam Punya, Ramayana Mahanadi. It's a massive river like the river Ganges, and it flows on and on and on, sanctifying the entire earth. So, and that is the greatness of this work. And the Ramayana itself shows how the boon that was conferred upon the work, Yavad stasyanti gireyaha saritascha mahitale tavad Ramayana katha lokeshu pracharishyati. So as long as the mountains live and rivers wide, so long is this work going to live. So unlike Plato, for example, sage Valmiki and sage Vyasa had one very great excellence. They are all philosophers, no doubt. But while Plato longed for a philosopher king, so Vyasa and Valmiki had right in front of them philosopher kings. So they were so living examples right in front of them. Arjun has stressed that point of someone being a living example. So in the introduction of his work, his introduction is very beautiful. So I'll come to that. So having a living example, so one can theorize about dharma a great deal. Tomes have been written and tomes can be written regarding the deep concepts of dharma. But to have a living example before us, Ramo Vigrahavan Dharma, the very embodiment of dharma that Rama was, to even conceive such a character is not an easy thing. But Valmiki had the fortune of seeing, beholding, so in flesh and blood, a character like this. And even Vyasa had such great kings in front of him. And this is the fortune of India, and that is the fortune of the world that India could give. In fact, there is a very beautiful statement. We have to take the statement of Kalidasa's Kumar Sambhava in a slightly deeper manner. The very opening verse of Kalidasa's Kumar Sambhava is Asyuttarasyam dishi devatatma himalayo nama nagadhirajaha purvaparau toyanidhi vagahya sthitah prithivyayo manadandaha. So Himalaya is as it were a measuring rod for the Prithvi. In a way, it is the Indian culture which is a measuring rod for the cultures of the world. So that way, so this sets grand standards for, in fact Arjun has brought out the idea of Valmiki's Kavya presenting a golden standard for both Kavis and for Alankarikas. So he has brought out, for speaking about the Auchitya that is presented in the Ramayana. So he makes those comments which are really excellent. And as S.R. Ramaswamiji has brought out, even the Rakshasas in the Ramayana have some good value to convey. So, for example, it has been said of Ravana that he was excellent in so many ways, except for one thing, yad yadharmona balavan. So that was the one factor that he was doomed to. His doom was on account of that. And even regarding Vibhishanastu dharmatma natu rakshasa cheshtitaha. So we find that such exemplary characters, even among asuras, they have been presented in this kavya. And at the same time as being a philosophical work, so with philosophical undertones. So this is also a work which is pathe geye cha madhuram. So it is a very sweet work, whether to read or to sing. So it is set to music by Sage Valmiki himself, the author, and Rama's own children sang the work. So, and what's the message of this great work? So it has been so very well stated by S.R. Ramaswamiji, so that I don't want to spend my own energy trying to state that. The core message of the Ramayana is the pursuit of righteousness, which itself lends to emancipation. The mundane and the otherworldly are thus effortlessly bridged. So this is the beautiful message of the Ramayana. So the Iha and the Amutra are blended. So the Ramayana holds up righteousness as the ideal, while guilt is punished. Any feeling of personal enmity is absent. So when Valin died, when Ravana died, what is the attitude of Rama? Maranantani Vairani. So it is not any animosity against the individual. So it was only against the guilt that was present there. Everyday conduct is thus sublimated. Much useful instructions follows from even the Rakshasas that I have already illustrated. These are the glorious words of S.R. Ramaswamy regarding the greatness of this work. And Arjuna has pointed out how the various rasas are present in this work. So there is a reference to even the Hasi rasa. In Sanskrit there is a Subhashita. Markatasya surapanam tasya vrishchika damshanam tanmadhye bhuta sancharaha yadva tadva bhavishyati. And a beautiful illustration for that is given in the Markata surapana, in the Madhuvana, in the Ramayana. So the first Gundu party, so in the Ramayana itself. So after the discovery of Sita, there is a grand celebration among the monkeys, and they run riot in the Madhuvana, and they have a very happy and nice time, and the chesta of the monkeys so is so beautifully described by Sage Valmiki. And even so, the sleep of Kumbhakarna so has been so beautifully described, and the effort that was required to rouse Kumbhakarna from sleep. Dasha Rakshasa Sahasram. So it is not just 10,000. So several 10,000s, millennia of Rakshasas, and Mridanga Panavan, Bherihi, all these noise was created just to rouse him from sleep and so on. There are other more funny descriptions of Kumbhakarna's sleep and the efforts to wake him up in the Subhashita literature, and I will not go into those things. So this book, the Essential Ramayana, has as its model the book written by A.R. Krishna Shastri. So his extraordinary work, Vachana Bharata, also set an extraordinary standard. So A.R. Krishna Shastri's words, so in his preface to Vachana Bharata, have been beautifully captured by Arjun. While composing this work, these are the words of A.R. Krishna Shastri, originally in Kannada, translated into English by Arjun. While composing this work, my primary focus has been poetry and literary value. The story must be interesting and, as far as possible, should be rich with emotional details evoking rasa. Descriptions, literary embellishment, dharma and niti must appear in optimum amounts. I wanted to capture in this work everything that is emotionally rich, profound, and has poetic value, but it should also not grow beyond limits. The language should be crisp and easily accessible. This was my aim. This is the aim set very clearly set forth by A.R. Krishna Shastri, and I can definitely say that Arjun has stood up to the standard and the expectation, the model of A.R. Krishna Shastri. So his English is easy flowing and crisp and to the point. So there is no unnecessary flourish of language. So just to make it colorful, just to make a show of his command over English, he knows multiple languages. He knows German, he knows Greek, and persons knowing those such languages can easily have a better command over English very naturally. And one can easily see the command he has over the language all through the work. And I'm very happy that he has chosen the right model of A.R. Krishna Shastri, who was commended by Dr. Deviji himself. So Deviji himself praised the work of A.R. Krishna Shastri. So, and the prologue of the work is something very important. So that he has been able to condense the Ramayana is one thing. So there have been many condensations of the Ramayana. Many have attempted, and Arjuna also has done it. And Arjuna has done, as I just said just now, he has had a very good model in front of him and has certainly lived up to the model and has delivered excellently. But what is quite valuable is the prologue that he has given in the book, so which is of comparable value as of A.R. Krishna Shastri's work in his prologue to the Vachana Bharata. So there are something like some 18 sections in the prologue. So Ramayana, the first poem, and Valmiki, the first poet, and then what does Ramayana stand for? Cultural aspects, the concepts of yajna, dana, and tapas, omens and dreams, rewards, etiquette, poetic elements he has brought out very well, and a few words about the critical edition, and then one very interesting thing that he has not forgotten to bring out is to dwell on is the Gordian knots of the Ramayana. Issues like Valivadha, Sita's Agnipravesha, Shambhuka Vadha, and Sita Parityaga. These are 4 issues which have roused enough controversy and have been exploited by those who are opposed to our heritage in general or to Valmiki or to Rama, and they have tried to paint in black the character of Rama and so on. But how are these issues to be handled? The answers are all rather brief. In fact, they require a very detailed treatment, but some of the vital issues have been covered and the vital points of those issues have been very well covered. And there is another very interesting section in this book, popular episodes not in the original Ramayana. Once I was amused to read in the newspaper a review of one of the volumes of the Ramayana produced by Bharata Darshana, in which the reviewer has said the whole book does not even have a reference to Lakshman Rekha, and what do you speak of the scholarship of the authors? But the point is that the concept of Lakshman Rekha does not occur in the Valmiki Ramayana. So many people do not know that. So there are many concepts and episodes that are popularized in regional Ramayanas. So every region has produced a Ramayana. Paul Thieme makes this remark that Ramayana can be called a classic also on the ground that the first work in every Indian language is invariably a Ramayana. So that way the Ramayana has such a high this one. And unlike, for example, in the West, you speak one word about Prophet Muhammad, which somebody may construe as something negative, even though it is just factual. Oh yes. So Tarzan says Judas or some such thing. So that threat will be there. So, or even Christianity. So it's very, very difficult to criticize. On the other hand, our poets have been taking liberties with the original story and have produced variant versions, and they have all made the stories quite attractive. Now, Ahalya becoming a stone is a very popularly known idea, not in the original Ramayana. Sita Swayamvara, where Ravana came and he also tried his hand and failed, not in the original Ramayana. Maya Shurpanakha. Shurpanakha first came as a very charming woman, and then only ultimately could her real truth be found. No, not in the original Ramayana. Lakshman Rekha, not in the Ramayana. So, and the event of Shabari offering bitter fruits, fruits tasted by herself and then passed on to Rama, not in the Valmiki Ramayana. And then Ravana did not accord a proper welcome to Hanuman, and Hanuman was not given a seat, and therefore he lengthened his own tail and sat higher than Ravana in a higher pedestal, not in the original Ramayana. These are all there in other Ramayanas. So, and then Rama performing a puja of Shivalinga at Rameshwaram, not in the original Ramayana. So these are all there in other Ramayanas. Some have become quite popular and all that. And it is a very good thing that Arjun has brought all these notions together in one place and has shown that these do not have a place in the original Ramayana, but at the same time he has not railed against them. That's a good thing about Arjun's work. So just because they are not in the Ramayana, it's not that they have to be condemned and derided and discarded. On the other hand, even they can add some poetic charm to the story and make the story quite interesting and so on. So such liberties can be taken by the poets. Nirankushah kavayaha. So even Patanjali has said that a statement to the similar effect, saying that poets have that freedom. So regarding that Rameshwara, there is a beautiful Subhashita in Sanskrit. So it says, once Rama and Shiva had a fight on a grammatical issue. What is the issue? Whether Rameshwara, how to dissolve the compound word Rameshwara. Rama said, Ramasya Ishwaraha, Rameshwaraha is Shashti Tat Purusha, and therefore I bow down to you. Shiva said, no, Ramaha Ishwaraha Esyasaha, therefore I bow down to you, because he gives the Upadesha of Ramataraka mantra. So therefore I adore you, therefore you are greater. So they could not solve the problem. They went to Brahma. Brahma said, both of you are wrong. And he said, the samasa is karmadharaya. So Ramascha so Ishwarascha, and therefore so that way. So unfortunately in our tradition, the conflict between Shaivas and Vaishnavas has grown to undue proportions, and that was not an approach that was taken by DVG. Throughout his works we can see that no such biases can we find in the works of DVG. And it's good that Ganesh has Arjun has drawn our attention to these things. He has also brought attention to the Buddhist, Jain, Shaiva, Vaishnava, Shakta versions of Ramayana, other Ramayanas attributed to Valmiki himself, Adhyatma Ramayana, Ananda Ramayana, Buddha Ramayana, Yoga Vasishtha, and to the influence of our Ramayana on later Sanskrit poets like Bhasa, Kalidasa, Bhavabhuti, Murari, Rajashekhara, Kshemendra, Jayadeva, Kumaradasa, Abhinanda, Shaktibhadra, and others, and to the regional Ramayanas, Kamba Ramayana, Krityavasa Ramayana, and so on and so forth. And in the section on the influence of Ramayana, he's also brought out how our art heritage, whether it is music or sculpture or dance, so the Ramayana is very much alive all through. So he makes a reference to Amarchitra Katha, to Padma Subramaniam, to Nirupama's dance company. So all the contributions that they have made to the understanding of the Ramayana and the spreading of the Ramayana and so on. One more thing, we all fondly refer to him as Ramachandra, but the expression Ramachandra itself does not appear in the Ramayana, has been brought out by Arjun. So he has drawn attention to even such factors. For example, the name of Shravana Kumara, the young boy, the ascetic boy whom Dasharatha killed with his Shabdavedhi, Bana and so on. So that name Shravana Kumara does not appear there in the Valmiki Ramayana. So all these, even the minor points that he has drawn attention to is very excellent. I still have to make a reference to one or two very small errors in the book. So the copy editing has been very good. The proofreading has been very good. One place I One place Meera showed me was in the introduction where instead of calling it crowning of Bharata, it has become crowing of Bharata. N is missing. Okay. And in one place, say Arjun knows, but sometimes knowingly we use in spite of our knowledge of the word, we use a wrong word with a similar spelling or similar, say, phonetic, say, proximity or whatever. So we can express with confidence, instead of using that expression, we can express with confidentiality. He has used the expression so, regarding the date of the Ramayana and so on. So there is no need of confidentiality there and so on. One thing, I do not know whether it is a variant reading, Snehacha Bahumanacha Smaraye Tvam Nashikshaye is the original. Smaraye Natashikshaye has appeared. Maybe it's a yeah. I guess it's so. I guess so. So, on the whole, this work, Arjun's work, is an excellent production, and I am very happy to have had the fortune of releasing this book, and I commend this book to all of you. Please read this book, and you will really enjoy the book. I don't know how much time I took, so I'm sorry if I am exceeding my time limit. So now I have to introduce this work, the Jivana Dharma Yoga of D. Gundappa, translated into English. Very well rendered. I have no words, so then I don't have to speak of the excellences and the importance of a work like Bhagavad Gita. So we all know that it is the quintessence of the Upanishads, that it is a yoga shastra. So the verdict of Shankara, Ramanuja and Madhva is, say, unequivocal and equally commending of this work. Shankara says, Samasta Vedartha Sara Sangraha Bhutam. Ramanuja says, Pandutanaya Protsahana Vyajena Bhakti Yogam Avatarayamasa. Madhva says, Bharata Parijata Madhu. These are the three certificates that are given to the Bhagavad Gita by the great eminent acharyas. I have no special fancy to quote foreign authors to bring out the greatness of the Bhagavad Gita. All the same, we must mention, so I'm not going to quote them, we must mention that eminent people like scientists like Einstein and Oppenheimer and Thoreau and Emerson, Huxley and Carl Jung have all praised the work. So it's not a work that is to be slighted. So you can see, for example, today the works of my own teacher, G. Ramakrishna, deriding the Bhagavad Gita, and then D.D. Kosambi and others, and many leftists who have derided our works. So in fact, Arjun's work, I wanted to mention that he has made a mention of the leftists' regular misinterpretation of the Bhagavad Gita, of the Ramayana, and so on. And I must also say that one student of mine, Manjushri Hegde, has a small volume, a small monograph on Sheldon Pollock's criticism of Ramayana rebutted. So she has rebutted the ideas and arguments. Sheldon Pollock is a typical leftist. So the kind of approaches that they make and how that has to be handled, so they're all there. So Arjun has not forgotten to make a mention of that. So the Bhagavad Gita is one among the 5 gems of the Mahabharata. So Pancharatnani Bharate, and it occupies the first rank. What is the importance of the Bhagavad Gita? I don't want to give my assessment, so I would like to give the assessment given by S.R. Ramaswamy ji on the Bhagavad Gita. There are few books in world literature comparable to the Bhagavad Gita in the sweep of their influence. Few would deny that it is the most outstanding contribution of India to the world's philosophical literature. Its cogency and comprehensibility, this is what many people have tried to question. Its cogency and comprehensibility appeal to the scholar and the layman alike. Unlike the majority of philosophical works, the Bhagavad Gita stands out on account of its irresistible persuasiveness. Its method of exposition, elegance, literary quality, and chiseled diction are unmatched. These features are doubtless at the root of the sustained popularity of the Bhagavad Gita that the Bhagavad Gita has enjoyed for over 2 millennia. So, excellent words of S.R. Ramaswamy, and nobody can appreciate the Bhagavad Gita better than S.R. Ramaswamy has put in this pithy manner. So, in a very concise manner and in his beautiful English, one should read this book and certainly not miss the introduction by the preamble by S.R. Ramaswamy for the sheer beauty of his English and the depth of his thought, the two being together. So, such is the importance of the Bhagavad Gita. And when so many commentators have commented upon Bhagavad Gita, what was so great about DVG doing the same? So, earlier there used to be a small section, so in lieu of the preface, an apology for the work. So that was the typical pattern in ancient works, say some 50 years ago. Why I had to write this book? What would not have been lost if this book had not been written? So he had to give a justification to write the work. So when there are hundreds of translations of Bhagavad Gita, thousands of explanations of Bhagavad Gita, where is the need for a DVG to write on the Bhagavad Gita? Once again, I must answer in the words of S.R. Ramaswamy himself, because he has saved so much of my trouble instead of my trying to make an assessment of the book. So I thought I will just present before you what S.R. Ramaswamy has done. So he has given under the heading a fresh perspective. So that's what was missing. So DVG himself has given so the justifications for his work. So what has been the traditional pattern of the commentaries of Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, and many others. So there are hundreds of commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita. So what is new in what he has given? So D.V. Gundappa had rigorous traditional training in Vedanta. So S.R. Ramaswamy draws our particular attention to this fact. He had the benefit of pursuing Vedanta study under the guidance of no less a person than Hanagal Virupaksha Shastri, who in his time was a top-notch scholar in Vedanta and allied disciplines. Familiarity with the traditional commentaries on basic traditional texts was thus ingrained in D.V. Gundappa. It's not that he is a sort of an upstart and is trying to offer some fresh interpretations in utter ignorance of what traditional commentaries have presented. To toe the traditional line in interpreting the Gita would thus have been easy for him. So, DVG could have produced tomes towing the traditional lines and bridging or summarizing or presenting in a new fashion, all that is contained in traditional scholarship. But he chose to strike a slightly different path, though obviously not fundamentally at variance with tradition. So, the difference is one of emphasis. But this difference acts as a springboard for much fresh exploration in the direction of contemporization of the time-honored text. The point is that you don't have to be fresh for the sake of just being novel. So I want to strike a different path, and therefore the untrodden track I just want to take for the heck of it. No, for the in the direction of the contemporization of the time-honored text. So how the present work is somewhat different from its predecessors has been stated in clear terms in the author's introduction. He quotes DVG himself. According to our ancient commentators, the Gita is a moksha shastra. In the present work, it is chiefly a jivana shastra. While the ancient masters held vairagya in greater importance, we in the present day have to live in this world and find solutions to the problems of life today. Applying the teachings of the Gita to worldly life is our stated purpose. This is the stated purpose of Dr. DVG in writing his work. So that pertinence, that contemporization, so application of the ancient sutras to modern life, So that is what is very important. In fact, that is also something that accords so very well with Haleberu, Hosechiguru. So the roots are all ancient, as Ramaswamy has pointed out very well. DVG was very well rooted in our tradition, and he knew what our tradition says and what it stands for, and so on. Those values, and those tenets and doctrines he was quite familiar with. And yet he chose to present it in a novel way, not for the sake of mere novelty, but on the other hand, to show its contemporary relevance. So in this work, emphasis is placed upon the straightforward meaning of the verses of the Gita. So we can find, the commentators on the Gita, doing all their acrobatics on the grounds of the strength of their knowledge of grammar. So we can interpret various texts verily. So if you split a text differently, you get a different meaning. So for example, there was the problem before the computers, how computers will have to do the padacheda first of all. So aham vaishwanaro bhutva praninam dehamashritah. Suppose you introduce spaces, aham, vai, shva, naro, bhutva, praninam dehamashritah. So even that can yield some sense. But what is the spirit of the original? So that must be captured. So DVG's aim was always at the dhvani of the work. Sir Ramaswamy has brought out the importance of catching the tonality of the work, the essence of the work, what the Gita Acharya had in mind. Now, unlike Sheldon Pollock, who tried to say that we don't necessarily have to go by the spirit and the intention of the original author. So our own understanding is also equally important, or perhaps more important than the original authors. So that is the kind of, his three-dimensional interpretation that Sheldon Pollock tries to give, and says that our understanding is also equally valid as the original, or perhaps more important than the original. The author is after all dead, so we are the ones who are living, and therefore our own interpretations matter. So this is the arrogant attitude of Sheldon Pollock. But on the other hand, you can see that in the writings of DVG, the feeling of the pulse of the original, of the original speaker, the original context is never forgotten, and equally never forgotten is its relevance today. So in what manner is this applicable? It is in light of these reasons that this teaching of the Gita has been termed Jivana Dharma Yoga, the yoga of the right conduct of present life in this book. So these are the glorious words of DVG, which are an excellent eye-opener. So we can find that in all great and deep teachings, with the passage of time, there is some kind of dilution or distortion. So Krishna himself had to complain, imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam vivasvan manave praha manu ikshvaka vebravi devam parampara praptam rajarshayo viduhu. So sakaleneha mahata nashto yoga parantapa. So this yoga was lost. I am only reviving the tradition. Even Krishna is not the originator of Hinduism or of the ideas in the Bhagavad Gita. It has been there. So as long as the universe has been there, these are the eternal ideas. So that have been there in the in nature. So that has been brought out very well in this work. There is a funny, a crooked, nevertheless true remark about translations. It says, one is all translations or transmutations from gold to lead. If the original is the gold, the translation is lead. But the other verdict, the one which is cunning and funny, is that translations are like wives. If they are charming, they are not faithful. If they are faithful, they are not charming. So that is the difficulty with all translations. But here in the English translation of the Jivana Dharma Yoga of DVG, so the couple, so the husband and wife, Sri Lalitha and Raghavendra, have done an extraordinary job in producing an excellent translation. So really one has to wonder, S.R. Ramaswamy has also commended the translation. In his preamble, he says, see, these are the words of, see, himself, Ramaswamy himself is a thorough master of English, the English idiom, and therefore we can take his recommendation at face value. He says, the English rendering is absolutely true to the original. No better certificate is required. But it must be said that Raghavendra and Sri Lalita have succeeded in a remarkable measure in bringing out the spirit of the original in all its subtlety. Usually the things that are lost are subtlety and nuances of the original, but they have done a wonderful job. Their total attunement with the original, to get the certificate from S.R. Ramaswamy is not easy. So their total attunement with the original is visible page after page, because Ramaswamy had the great fortune of listening directly from DVG and making notes from and preparing the fair and final copy of the book and getting a stamp of approval from DVG himself, and therefore it is he who definitely can be said to have caught the spirit of the original, and his words, their total attunement with the original is visible page after page. To add to it is the well-cultivated, precise prose which has served as the vehicle. The translator duo has accomplished a rare feat indeed. So these are the words. And he also says, seldom does one find such total coherence between the original and the free-flowing English translation. So I have no words to express the joy I have felt in going through the English version. On behalf of the countless readers, I offer to Raghavendra and Sri Lalita our immense gratitude for their loving labor in producing the exemplary transcreation. I pray for their success in all their pursuits. I don't have to add a thing after this commendatory note of S.R. Ramaswamy. So the preamble given by S.R. Ramaswamy gives a panoramic view of the whole project. So they have also given an excellent glossary and an index of quotations. So that was not there in the original. So these are the value additions that have been made by these two translators. Dr. DVG has given his own nomenclature for the various chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. So instead of calling it Arjuna Vishada Yoga, he calls it Prakrita Karunya Yoga. Instead of calling it Sankhya Yoga, he calls it Tattva Viveka Yoga, and so on. So, and DVG has given beautiful justifications for this new nomenclature that has been given by him as reflective of the spirit and the content of the original work. And what I was very happy about this translation is that they have taken upon themselves the role of good editors also. So it's not merely translations. So there have been at least 2-3 occasions that I could find where they have corrected the errors of DVG. For example, DVG, while quoting Apastamba Dharma Sutra, he had quoted Atmalabhan naparo vidyate. That's what DVG had written. But these have referred to the original and have pointed out Atmalabhan naparam vidyate, not paro vidyate. Paro also occurs. Grammatically it is fine, but the original has, see, param, and therefore that has to be retained, and therefore they have made this alteration duly. So, and I am really very happy, and I am even surprised that they have taken so much of effort. Another quotation, DVG has given a wrong reference. So, iti kartavyata bhagam mimamsa purishati has been attributed to Manu by DVG. But our authors, our translators have found that the reference is not Manu. So, but on the other hand, it is Vachaspati Mishra. So, and they have given the full reference also. So, even for Apastamba Dharma Sutra, they have given the reference and shown that this is the correct text. And therefore, this is not that they just wanted to do a translation and be done with it. So, nobody would have objected to the translations if they had just adhered to.
Cross-referred all the sources.
Yes.
Cross-referred every source.
Exactly. So, I am very happy about this kind of attention that they have done. Another quotation, they are slaves who dare not to be in the right with 2 or 3 is a quotation that has been given by DVG, but with no source given in the original. but they have taken the effort to give the source, namely James Russell Lowell in his stanzas on freedom. So they have given that reference also, so which is painstaking effort. So nobody would have objected if they had not taken the trouble of doing this, but the kind of zeal that they have and the interest that they have in turning out a good work is very much evident. Take for example the Upanishad, the famous Upanishad statement for which DVG did not give the source. It's a famous quotation nevertheless. Tasya evam vidusho yajamanasya. So Shraddha Patni, etc. Shariram idmam and so on. So that beautiful quotation from Mahanarayana. They have traced it to the original, giving the full reference. So there are a few quotations, for example, from the Bhagavata, for which DVG had not given reference. So they have taken the trouble of giving the reference to the Bhagavata. One or two small things that they have not paid attention to is, for example, DVG has wrongly cited one text. So that is from the Bhagavata. So page 92. A quotation from the Mahabharata. Narochaye jnativadham drashtum brahmarshi sattama yuddhametat tvasheshena asheshena shrunuyam tava tejasa. There is a misprint there. It's not any great blunder. Instead of shrunuyam, it is given as shrunuyam. But unfortunately, it has not been corrected here. So, Sri Lita and so that is because, see, the meaning is not altered after all. So there is nothing lost there. But I'm only saying that as good editors, it would be nice if they pay attention to that also. So, and they have left out one note by DVG, Papmanam Prajahihyenam. So that quotation from the third adhyaya of the Bhagavad Gita, where he has tried to give one more reading of the text. So Prajahihi, even where DVG has committed a mistake in the sense, Prajahihi should have been a single word, but he has been separated, most probably by the proofreader. See, it must have been done. So, but that has been ignored by our translators. Of course, on a valid ground, namely that they have referred to the critical edition of the Mahabharata, and therefore they have ignored that. I think I have consumed too much of time. So, apart from these very minor, I am only trying to show you that it is not as superficial. Just because I received the books late, it is not a very superficial comment that I am making, that I try to go through the books and see what they have done and so on. But this is an extraordinary work, I must say, and there is no better word than that. So, not an easy thing to translate. Even to have a patience to just to go through the original is not possible for many people. So, of course, DVG's language is not easily accessible today, especially for the modern youth. So, I have seen fathers speaking proudly of their sons and daughters, saying, "Oh, my son reads the headlines of Kannada newspapers. With some struggle, he can make out the Kannada." A far cry, see, to understand the Jivana Dharma Yoga of Bhagavad Gita. So unfortunate that we have neglected our own language and our own tradition and our own values and so on. But to have been able to grasp the original and put it across equally effectively in beautiful English is an extraordinary job, and I consider myself very fortunate to have been associated with this program. And as I see, it is the pre-Christian era India with all its glory come alive today. So with the great texts, the Ramayana and the Bhagavad Gita presented, and the Ananda sutras, which bring out the quintessence of our tradition. So I am thankful to the organizers for inviting me to this function. Thank you very much. Thank you. I had asked, should I speak in Kannada or in English, and how much time I can take. No problem. He had told half an hour to 45 minutes. I have exceeded by 15 minutes. I apologize.
You felt timelessness.
I'd like to thank Professor Kannan for his illuminating speech. I'd like to call upon our trustee KBS Ramachandra to offer him a token of our gratitude. We have few more guests to whom we have to present complimentary copies. So I'd like to call Sri Shakaranta to present the copies. So we would like to present a complimentary copy to our advisor Sri Sandeep Balakrishna. We have Dr. Vinay Chandra Banavati, who has come on behalf of Development Foundation. We would also like to present a copy to him. So we would like to call Sri Hari Ravi Kumar. So he has been the backbone of all our publications. He is the one who painstakingly does all the copy editing, design of the cover pages and everything. So we would also like to give him a complimentary copy. So as announced before, the books are available in the bookstall at a special price where there is a 25% discount. Also for people who want to buy our books online, so all these books are available on Subu Publications. So if you want to buy online, you can go to Subu Publications and buy these books. So after this, I'd like to call upon the translators of Jivana Dharma Yoga to share their experiences in translating such a wonderful work.
मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं भजत प्रेमकृपानिधिं माधवं पाण्डवसारथिवेषम् अर्जुनसारथिवेषं नमः सर्वेभ्यः. My respectful namaskaras to my gurus and everyone gathered here. At the outset, we would like to express our thanks to everyone who made this translation possible. Bhagavan Shri Krishna, who bestowed upon us the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Vyasa, the Bhashyakaras, DVG, who showed us how to lead fulfilling lives in accordance with the spirit of the Gita, Shatavdhani Dr. R. Ganesh sir for this assignment and constant support and encouragement, Shri Hari Ravi Kumar for his astute edits, Shri Arjun Bharadwaj, Shri B.N. Shashikiran, Shri Sandeep Balkrishna, Shri Srinidhi and Shri Ganesh Koppal Tota for their reviews. Our respectful thanks to Nadoja Pujya S.R. Ramaswamy, who was kind enough to bless this translation with his insightful preamble. Thanks are due to Shri Chandranath Acharya for the cover picture. We would also like to thank Preksha Publications and Gokhale Institute of Public Affairs for their support in publishing the translation. We would also like to thank our family and well-wishers for encouraging us. The Shlokardha Pushpamala Prasangena Sutram Shirasi Dharyate has never been said with more justice than when I say it now today. When we began this work, we saw the number of pages. It was slightly less than 800. We thought every weekdays we take one page each, and during the weekend we can do a little more, and we'll be done with the translation in a year. and give a couple of months more for doing the final checking, and our work will be done in 1.5 years. However, when we started, we found out how difficult that was. At least for me, my familiarity with Vedanta is quite limited. And at some points, we couldn't help but stop and just admire the wonderful Kannada, the simplicity with which DVG was explaining complicated concepts, and how each of these concepts was making sense in our daily lives. Probably all translators go through this, but this was a new experience for us. So Ganesh sir bore with our tardiness, and thank you for that. So these last few years have been a lot about DVG in our family. My husband translated Mankutimana Kagga into Sanskrita. He tried to do one verse every day. So invariably our days began with the Kagga. All these conversations gave us more insight into what DVG was saying in the Bhagavad Gita Tatparya. The most often quoted verse from the Bhagavad Gita is Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, and we also see Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. However, for DVG, the Dhyaya Vakya was Svakarmana tamabhyarchya. He says that in the very first page in his dedication. And this is the verse that has to be exemplified in today's society. So some months ago I came across this tribe. I read about this tribe called Kamars, who believed that they were given bows, arrows and axes by Bhagavan Shiva. So they consider their job as divine. And many of them still don't want to leave their age-old profession because it has been given to them by Mahadeva. So that is the kind of Shraddha, the kind of Bhagavad Samakshata that these people, they have. Even my father-in-law, who's present here, he says, Nan mado pathane nan puje. He's a retired teacher. So this Svakarmana tababhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha is something we see everywhere, every day in our lives. So as we went through the book, we started to observe such examples around us carefully, and we were wowed by them. This understanding gave us a whole new wonderful perspective about our daily work, which has helped us in many ways. Along with Swakarma comes Swadharma. In today's world for us, we don't have to go fight battles like Arjuna, but Swadharmam api chavekshya na vikampitum arhasi means that even a non-confrontational person like me would have to go and speak up in office meetings if it is for the well-being of the team. So this was an insight I personally got from Jivana Dharma Yoga, and this is how I was able to take the learnings from the Bhagavad Gita to my workplace. So when we were looking up references that DVG has quoted in the book, we came across a wealth of knowledge, like Panchakosha Samikshe and to obscure verses in Parashara Smriti. This has given us reading material enough for many years, actually. And we also marveled at DVG's encyclopedic sweep. He was a veritable rishi, and it is indeed fortunate that we got this opportunity to translate. Another experience I'd like to relate is from when we were trying to come up with the index for the book. Creating the index turned out to be a much, much bigger task than we had anticipated. The progress was so slow and painful that at some point it felt logical to give it up. But DVG's nudge made us realize that if we gave it up, it was only Rajasa Tyaga. So finally, the index also found its place in the book. With this, I'd like to conclude. Many thanks to Preksha Pratisthana and Gokhale Institute for this opportunity.
जगद्रणाङ्गणे यस्य स्मरणं जयकारणं पार्थसारथे तस्मै श्रीकृष्णब्रह्मणे नमः. कृष्णगुण्डार्य रामार्य गणेश गुरुतल्लजान् नत्वा वृद्धोऽपि बालोऽहं कुर्वे किञ्चिन् निवेदनम्. नमस्सभायै. It is a great honor and fortune as to stand in front of this august gathering to share again my gratitude on the release of this work. Gratitude has always been, has already been expressed by my better half and co-author, but Dvirukti is not a dosha here. I express my heartfelt thank you to all those who guided us and encouraged us during these 3 Gajagarbhas of this translation. I still remember the time when I memorized around 40 verses of DVG's immortal Mankutimana Kagga for a recitation competition organized right here at the Gokhale Institute of Public Affairs during his birth centenary celebrations, that is 1987. So you can imagine how old I am. I recited some Kaggas right here, and my prize was a nice Kagga that I still hold very dear to myself. My father had explained to me some meanings, the meaning of those verses. The specific verse there that stood up at that time to me, an 8 or 9 standard old boy, was Jatti Kalagadi Kelladode, Garadiya Samu Pattu, Varasegalella, Viphala Mutti Nodvana, Maikattu, Kabbina Gatti, Gatti Tana, Garadi Phala Mankutima. That is stayed with me. I don't need to, I can remember that all the time. That was my introduction to DVG. Little did I know that then that I would get an opportunity to translate his magnum opus into English. And about Jivana Dharma Yoga itself, I first came across that through my great uncle, who is no more today. He had said, during a random conversation, he said, Mahanubhavarappa DVG, it is through him that I've been able to understand the sense of make sense of the Bhagavad Gita. So that book became etched in my memory, but I never thought myself fit to read it. It's a formidable, size. So that kind of put me off, and my ineligibility to kind of read that. But however, after a few years, I mustered the confidence to read it. That was more than 20 years ago. Upon my first read, I had participated in recitation competitions, kind of word-to-word meanings of the Bhagavad Gita. Those things were there, but when I encountered DVG's Jivana Dharma Yoga, this was not straightforward word-to-word meaning and commentary upon that as has been done by so many other people. And of course, my language ability in Kannada also was not that great around 20-25 years ago. But not that I have it now, but at least I can enjoy it a little more. But what was remarkable at the time was DVG's conversational style. His lovely Kannada, his highly relatable contemporary examples that showed the applicability of the Gita at all times. At the same point that Professor Kannan alluded to, Gita is always contemporary. It's a timeless work. That showed, the examples showed those as well. As well as it unlocked some inconsistencies in the, seeming inconsistencies in the Bhagavad Gita. How did this happen? Nobody kind of unlocked it as nicely and as comprehensible as DVG did. And more than that, at that time what struck me was, why did Arjuna have to fight? He had to fight anyway. Of course, the Gitacharya has said more than that, but the specific example, the Upanishadic verse that quote that DVG gives, Yadeva Vidyaya karoti, tadeva viryavattaram bhavati. Doing something with knowledge, that is the most important thing, and that is what that's one of the big takeaways for me for the Bhagavad Gita. After that, I did read it a few more times, but it was more as a diving thing into it to gather more gems. But when we returned to India from the United States, Bharatamata blessed us with a wonderful association with one of her great sons, Shatabdhani Dr. R. Ganesh, and his lovely circle of Sahridayas. With the new vistas opening up due to our association with our friendly guru, our ability to understand, enjoy, evaluate, and explore evolved. In this new light, the Jivana Dharma Yoga has shown even more. Other works of DVG were also acquired and read by the time. The importance of the Gaundya Darsana, from Holinidna Totigalanu to Rasikatiya Yoga Velo and Ellarolaga Ondago, has stayed with me. It was a great blessing thus that we got that call from Shatabdhani Dr. R. Ganesh on this Narakachudurdashi day to asking us to take this mammoth task up, despite more capable individuals being available to us. This opportunity, again, what of the capability of the authors themselves, right? At least I cannot talk about my better half, but I can talk about myself. There are some warnings that the Gitacharya issues. Dirgha Sutrata, avyavasayitva. Someone who has more of the heat of rajas and the sloth of tamas than the flashes of sattva. This work was given to us. Even so, if the work has reached this stage, it's only due to Bhagavad Kripa, Guru Kripa, and the encouragement from our family and well-wishers here. I don't know if my punya store is that large. So for the first timers that we are, we strove amidst significant work responsibilities. And to use DVG's own words, kelona keelonagalu. He uses those wonderful small phrases that kind of stay with you. And whenever we felt us flagging DVG and the Gita themselves kind of, there is no better motivator than DVG and the Bhagavad Gita. Our translation, I know, it's not without error, as has pointed out by Professor Kannan, and we'll be glad to fix any kind of errors in the future. Suffice it to say that a deliberate study of the Bhagavad Gita, and especially the Jivana Dharma Yoga, will not only give a robust intellectual framework to analyze individual and societal problems, but also grant the mental fortitude to deal with any situation that might arise. I would like to conclude with an anecdote that DVG relates at the end of the Jivana Dharma Yoga. I will just read from the translation. Swamin, there is an accountant in an office I know. He seems to be a pious person. He wears a dhoti in the traditional kache fashion. His forehead is smeared with vibhuti, and he always utters statements from the Gita. He keeps saying Rama Rama or Shiva Shiva, but when asked to bring his documents, he can never find them. He makes mistakes in accounting. He does not remember anything. If asked why, he replies, Rama will set everything right. He regards office work as contemptible because it's just for a livelihood. He does not respect the job that pays him his salary. He's not competent in his work, but he is devoted to the Gita. In the same office, there is a typist. He may or may not be a Hindu. There is no mark on his forehead. He typically wears trousers and sometimes a hat also. He's always clean shaven. I have not heard the names of either the Gita or Rama from his mouth, but he is efficient in his work. He writes down dictations correctly, he types them up well, and he prepares documents in time. Many a time, he finishes extra work after office hours at night or early in the morning. Let us say that he is devoted to his work. DVJ now raises the important question. Whose devotion to the Gita is greater among the two? The one who utters statements from the Bhagavad Gita or the one who does his duty? I will leave you this question. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.
Thank you for your wonderful sharing of experiences. So I'd like to call upon Sri KVS Ramachandra again to felicitate our translators with a token of gratitude. Now I'd like to call Sri Arjun Bharadwaj to share his thoughts.
चेतसोस्तु प्रसादाय सतां प्राचेतसो मुनिः पृथिव्यां पद्यनिर्माणविद्यायाः प्रथमं पदं निःश्रेण्यौ ब्रह्मलोकस्य वाग्देव्याः कर्णकुण्डले धर्मद्रुममहामूले वाल्मीकिव्यासयोः कृति. Namaste everyone, very good afternoon. I take this small opportunity to thank everyone who has helped me in making of the book. First of all, my heartfelt gratitude to my parents and my grandparents who have introduced me to the Ramayana. I don't even remember when I first heard the story of the Ramayana, and that's true of every Indian. We would have heard it during our bedtime stories when we slept on the laps of our parents or grandparents. And no Indian, no true Indian needs to be introduced to the Ramayana for the first time. Every Indian knows the Ramayana already. And that is the mark of a true Indian or a true Sanatana Dharma seeker, I would say. thanks to them and my heartfelt gratitude to Professor K.S. Kannan, who in a sense introduced the Sanskrit language to me. He was the one who inspired my mother, Srimati I.V. Chandrika, to take up the Sanskrit studies, and it is through her that I derived the inspiration to learn the Sanskrit language and write this work on the first kavya, Pruthivyam Padya Nirmana Vidyaya Pratamam Padam. The new path of poetry was realized by the sage Valmiki, and he put the first step in that direction, and he wrote the first word, which is a poetic word. So all this was in an indirect manner possible due to the blessings of Professor K.S. Kannan, who has been a guiding light to me and my mother for decades already. And who better to dedicate this work to? All the qualities of Sri Rama, which Devarshi Narada elucidates in the right at the beginning of the Ramayana, I have seen them embodied in this Rama here, Dr. S.R. Ramaswamy. Just look at the words that Narada Maharshi says, and everybody who knows Dr. S.R. Ramaswamy will definitely agree that these qualities are very much applicable to him as well. Dharmagnyas satyasandascha prajanamcha hiterataha yashasvi jnana sampannah shuchir vashyaf samadhivan rakshita swasya dharmasya swajanasya cha rakshita veda vedanga tattvajnah dhanurvede cha nishtitah. Dhanurveda he might know, but then yeah, pen is mightier than the sword and pen is mightier than bow and arrow, so that has been his Dhanurveda. Sarvashastrartha tatvajnah smrutiman pratibhanavan sarvaloka priya sadhuhu adinatma vichakshanaha sarvadabhi gatas sadbhihi samudraiva sindubhihi arya sarva samaschaiva. We have seen that in all our interactions with Dr. S.R. Ramaswamy. Sadaiva priyadarshanaha samudra iva gambhirye dhairyena himavan iva kshamaya prithvi samaha. So I guess everybody here in the audience who have known Dr. S.R. Ramaswamy would agree with all these qualities. So who better to dedicate the work to? And the idea of writing this work occurred to us during a WhatsApp conversation on the Preksha group, where all of us were kind of complaining, seeing that there has been a lot of misinterpretation, misrepresentation of the Ramayana in recent days. There is one wing of extremely enthusiastic Hindus, the Renaissance or the refounded Hindus, who with very little knowledge of the original text make very tall claims or make very blunt and illogical claims about the epic. And there are other set of people who are people who say that India gave nothing and there is nothing great that India has contributed, who want to degrade and look down upon everything Indian. So we were thinking, how do we resolve this issue, especially with respect to the Ramayana? So therefore, under the guidance of Shatabdani Dr. R. Ganesh, we came up with the idea that just as A.R. Krishna Shastri, who also happens to be my great-grand-uncle, the manner in which he condensed the entire Mahabharata in a nutshell, he gave it in a very beautiful form in the Vachana Bharata, which Hari Ravi Kumar and myself had the privilege to translate into English a couple of years back. I thought I'll attempt walking that path and give a condensed translation of the Ramayana, true to the original, true to the critical edition of the Ramayana. So that is how this work came about. So the work started on Ramanavami 2023, and it got completed much before the 2024 Ramanavami. So within 1 year of Rama's life, the entire Ramayana got completed. And it was also a pleasant coincidence that I started reading and writing the Yuddha Kanda on the day of Vijayadashmi last year, 2023 Vijayadashmi. That is when it is said that Sri Rama vanquished, slayed Ravana. So there were a lot of these coincidences, and also January 2022 this year saw the civilizational reclaim of the Rama Janmabhoomi in Ayodhya. The Ramalalla image was established there. So I would like to thank Shatabdani Dr. R. Ganesh's guidance throughout. He read every episode when it came online and helped me improve the quality of the translation. He provided innumerable inputs to the introduction, to the prologue of this book as well. Hari Ravi Kumar, my dear friend, without him I wouldn't have realized a career in writing. I am almost tempted to make him the co-author of every work that I write. So he treats every work that is published or written by all our friends as his own work. So he is, by default, the co-author of all our works. So my heartfelt gratitude to him. And Chandranath Acharya, a very great painter, he provided a few illustrations for this book as well. So, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to him. And in the meantime, from the last 1.5 years, I had the opportunity to teach the Ramayana online. Many participants who attended my online Ramayana courses are here, especially the children who participated there constantly gave me with new perspectives, fresh perspectives on understanding the story of Ramayana. Some of the participants are here, Hamsa is here, Gauri is there, Bhargava is there, Rashmi Bhatt is there. My interactions with them enriched my understanding of the Ramayana. So it shows the eternality of the epic Ramayana, how from the youngest to the oldest, they are able to relate and they are able to associate and realize dhvanis in the Ramayana. I have made a note of few of them here in the beginning of the book as well. My gratitude to Pratap Simha of the US, Sri Shashikiran BN, my brothers Nakul Bharadwaj and Chandan Yashwant, who contributed towards the editing of the book. My heartfelt gratitude to the trustees of the Preksha Pratishtana, the collaborators, the donors, and also Subbu Publications and Rashtrottana Sahitya, who are going to make this work available to the world. This Ramayana has been an antidote to the many Ramayanas I have faced in my own life. It has given me the strength to bear and a very great amount of courage to walk in my life. My heartfelt gratitude to everyone. Namaste.
I'd like to again call upon KBS Ramachandra to offer a token of gratitude to Arjun Bharadwaj. So now is the time to call the next set of translators of the work Ananda Sutra, Sri Arjun Sharma and Harish Kumar.
Tatsat.
Ellarige namaskara. So,
a phrase couplet that needs no introduction to people who were present here.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that Arjun was talking on stage was, probably the work that we worked on is probably shorter than the table of contents of the other two books. So probably we're still taking the same amount of time. So.
And we would like to start off with a couple of apologies. Firstly to Naraja Dr. S.R. Ramaswamy, because the other two works are dedicated to him. While we were discussing with Hari, we forgot to put in a dedication. So in person, if not in print, we want to dedicate this work to him.
Yeah.
The second apology is due to Hari as well, because they took 3 years of dogged labor to produce this voluminous translation. Our slender booklet took nearly the same amount of time, despite Hari relentlessly hounding us for deadlines and some output. Yeah. So sorry, Hari. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think so about the translation experience itself. It's like we Arjun and I, like many of us over here, are like binge watchers and binge listeners of Dr. Ganesh's lectures. So it's like you watch something like you binge watch or binge listen to something on the internet, and you suddenly get to be a part of it. It's almost like that for us. Suddenly when Hari asked us, "Can you do this translation?" It's like, what are we going to do? Be a part of the work? So that itself was like a super exciting thing for us.
Exactly. And like there is an expression or a saying, what you want to call it in American comedy, if there is a subject, there is a Simpsons episode about it. Similarly, if there is a subject, there is a Ganesh lecture about it. Yeah. It is... The sheer expanse of his scholarship is immense. You can only admire it from a distance, like looking at the Himalaya or something. And he is prolific. The great ones are always prolific. There is no... I speak perhaps for myself, because I was at a point enamored by this Japanese aesthetic of neatly circumscribed perfection, whereas in our tradition we are prolific, we are profane, we are profuse. We don't stop. When something is come, we don't hold back. And that is what all the great poets have done, what Dr. Ganesh is also doing through his scholarship and through his lectures. So that's what we've been binge watching for several years. We'd like to thank him for this. Yeah,
while it was exciting, it was quite daunting for us, because we are new to this sort of writing. And this is Dr. Ganesh's work, and this is a profound topic. We are not highly initiated into this
We are not profound.
We are not profound. So lack of our knowledge and our experience and skills made it quite daunting. But as Dr. Ganesh says in the Ananda Sutras, one thing important is the company of noblemen, satsanga. And for us, it is that satsanga of Dr. Ganesh, Hari, and Arjun Bharadwaj which kind of help us finish this thing quite, because they were very generous, patient in their guidance, support, and encouragement.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Another thing important that Professor Kannan also talked about is how many people he has nurtured under him, Dr. Ganesh. There is a saying in Kannada, "Aladmar kelige enu beliyala," but he's a living antithesis to that. Because not only about scholars like Arjun and Hari, here also what Professor Kannan mentioned, composers of Halagannada poetry. One of whom is absent here but is represented by his better half, Subhana here, Ganesh Bhatt Koppal, an excellent Ashtavadani who can compose great extempore poetry in Halagannada. All have emerged from the tutelage of Dr. Ganesh. And that satsanga, along with Hari, Arjun, and several others in this, he wouldn't like the word disciples, I suppose, or acolytes, or any of that sort, but his Vidwan Mitras, as he calls them. So we've been privileged enough to share in this company, and that has helped this work come out well.
Yeah, so when we did when we started the translation process, so the initial version came to like a few, more than 100 pages. So there was this difficult...
No, because it was 8 hours of lectures. So
yeah, 8 hours of lectures.
We weren't just adding our own stuff, it was the content was so...
Yeah, it was 8 hours of lecture, so it came to more than 100 pages. So then there was this difficult task of how do I make it into, like, because Hari was very clear, this has to be in this format, these many pages. So, okay, so, and how do we distill it down? So the easiest part, can you guess what was that? It was in every Ganesh's lecture, there are like around 23% which will be baigalugulu, beriyarna baidirodu. So that's easy to remove, goes off. So,
even the Rasavat Baigalu, we had to unfortunately leave out.
Yeah. Although we like some of the Baigulas, but the Alikhita Niyama in
the Saraswata Loka, Alikhita Niyama, you're not supposed to
print
include,
those. So.
Include calumnies, vituperations, these are supposed to be left out. So sadly, with much regret,
yeah.
we had to leave it out, yes.
So, but I think on a serious note, it is like enormous content over there. So to pick some things, to make it interesting in a book format, what suits a book format, that was like a hugely difficult task. I think without the guidance of Dr. Ganesh, Hari, and Arjun Bharadwaj, I don't think this would have happened. So it was like, yeah.
It was what topic to leave out, what topic to condense. There are many people who are present in this auditorium who have also found mention in the book. All the things they have said and done, which also had to be transformed, transmuted into a format fit for publication. So that also meant leaving out very, very good parts as well. Yeah. Which like also is not just leaving out the Baigula is a regretful thing, also leaving out the good stuff is also a regretful stuff. Right?
Yeah. So, and then I think, Arjun spoke, this also took 1 year's time, right? So I think one cause for that is the perfection of Arjun Bharadwaj and the Preksha team, especially when it comes to diacritical remarks. So that itself probably delayed it by 2.5 months, I guess. So.
The R does not have the thing on top. It took a long time.
Yeah. So, yeah, but coming to the lecture series itself, I think for me, what it did was it takes a concept that has been discussed, deliberated, contemplated upon from times immemorial in our culture, in our tradition. Complex topics like Ananda, Moksha, Jivan Mukti, Purushartha. Dr. Ganesh takes it up, kind of deconstructs it, breaks it down into a level of simplicity that a layman like me can understand.
Me also.
You also, yeah.
Also a layman, why not?
And then one thing to say, okay, this is what is Ananda. Okay, we all understood. Like as Professor Kannan said, even Manushananda is difficult to achieve. But at least he lays out like simple steps, easy, practical, actionable in our everyday busy competitive lives that we can take to progressing towards the destination of Ananda. While we may not go there, but at least
you're on the right path.
Yeah, at least taking the step towards that itself can give a lot of happiness in our lives.
ದಿಕ್ಕು ದಿಸೆ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ, ದಿಕ್ಕು ತೋರಿಸ ದಾರಿ ನಾವೇ ಕಂಡುಕೋಬೇಕು, ದಿಕ್ಕು ತೋರಿಸ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಆ ಥರ ದಿಕ್ಸೂಚಿಯಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಲೆಕ್ಚರ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ. And also like this joke Harish made, like unlike other self-help books which are like how to be happy in 21 days, all of these things which don't really quite work. So unlike that, the sutras that Dr. Ganesh presents are very practicable, applicable in our lives. And in the recent past, we have also faced situations where we have practically applied these, like accepting the inevitable, which is not, as he reminds us, a passive acceptance of fate or just sitting fatalistically, but accepting that circumstances are so and taking action to adapt to them. So this is something that he brings out very well in his lectures, and we've applied them in our own lives and been
Exactly.
like we've been happy. Yeah.
We've been happy.
Not
At least that's
individually,
What,
but
individually,
yeah.
we've been happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I have doubts about that. Yeah.
Yes, okay.
So yeah, I think again, thanks to Dr. Ganesh, the Preksha team, Hari, Arjun, everybody for helping us out on this. And yeah, I think we missed out. So Professor Kannan, so he was our Sanskrit professor in PU.
National College, Jayanagar.
I don't think I remember going to National College, Jayanagar for my first PU and second PU, except for Professor Kannan's classes.
Yeah, which is true. Yeah.
Which is true.
No, it is true. Our attendance in college was like the late Ambarish's attendance in Parliament. It was very, it was very tenuous at best. But his classes, we were invariably present. And he would, there was a fixed syllabus, but he would just start, the text was a pretext for him, like Dr. Ganesh says. He would start off with it and the digressions would go all over, like the plot of Bana's Kadamri. And then it was beautiful. We were enamored by his description and his command over everything he mentioned. So
and typically for other lecturers, we would say, oh, he didn't complete the syllabus. Yes. If I remember, Professor Kannan, there was this one chapter on Vijnana Shakuntala. Yeah. I think there are many others also. But that's the only chapter he took, and it was like so beautiful. We didn't feel like, oh, he didn't complete this. Like, yeah, have more of it. Yeah, can we have more lectures on this?
Yeah. Sanskrit usually, like we say, kabbanadu kadle. Typically, if you're going for, if you're not as rooted in the tradition from your childhood or something, it is a difficult subject to encounter. But he made it very, very accessible and flavorable. Rasavattag madidru anno thara. So thank you, Professor, for that.
And yeah, thanks to our family, friends, and all of us who have supported us in doing this.
They inculcate a love for our culture, tradition, literary heritage, everything in us. It is thanks to them that, well, we are where we are. And also we could appreciate Dr. Ganesh's lectures on these varied subjects. It is an acquired taste, like in this day and age, it is an acquired taste. But once you acquire the taste, he becomes an addiction and then an addition to your life. So thank you to him for that.
Thank you.
And our thanks also go to our families and the Preksha Foundation. Yeah, thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you very much. That was a very refreshing take. Since KBS Ramachandra is already here on stage, I'd like to ask him to present our translators with a token of gratitude. So now we come to the Siddhanta part of our event. I'd like to call upon Shatabdani Dr. R. Ganesh to share his thoughts.
Namaste. Om Tat Sat. It's foolish to talk after an enchanting, jovial, interactive talk. They are seasoned comedians as well, seasoned stand-up comedians, Arjun Sharma and Harish. And so I personally thank them for translating my speech. The verbal diarrhea which I presented before few years on this dais has been made very decent and palatable. And that could be accomplished only because of the labor of love that was taken by Hari. He is always there. He is involved in everything. He is like Pranavayu. And of course Arjun, Shashi. In these years, without Shashi, I think I can't even think. I need Shashi yontah pravishya mamavasha vyam prasuptam sanjevayati. Like that. Even before dictating anything, he would have typed. What Ramaswamy did long ago, when DVG used to dictate, even before he dictating, Ramaswamy used to write. And G.P. Rajaratnam used to say, ಇದೇನ್ರಿ ಇದು ನೀವು ಹೇಳೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ಅವನು ಬರಿತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ ಆತ ಐಗಂಟ ಹಾಗೇನೆ. That's what Ramaswamy himself has recorded. So in that case, Ramaswamy would read the mind of DVG and write. But here, he reads my mind and rectifies whatever error that invariably happens. Shashi is such a perfectionist. And so Arjun, while thanking me in this essential Ramayana, he says God sent gift, but it is the other way. the Preksha team and my extended family, my friends, they are the God sent gift to me. Always gifts are given to people who cannot earn that. And the divine grace has gifted all these people to me. And of having heard so beautiful about these two works, mainly Jivana Dharma Yoga's English translation and Essential Ramayana, from the inimitable, Professor Kannan, in an inimitable way. His master of English, master of Kannada and Sanskrit as well, and his thoroughness in knowing every detail of it, going to the minutest aspects, whether it is Shranavama or Shrunavama. He is grammarian, and he has done that beautiful observation, very keen and pertinent observation. Coming to these major works, because they need a lot of independent exploration and deliberation, because they are very important. Now coming to the Jivana Dharma Yoga, this was the Karma Bhumi and Janma Bhumi of that. Before 60 years, I think. Before 60 years it took birth. And so it is very befitting that after 60 years, this new avatara has come in English. Though few translations may be available, but this, as Ramaswamy himself opines, this is the Adhikrita Anuvada, authentic translation and the voice of DVG in English. Why it is very important? For so many reasons. Coming to the book itself, in every adhyaya, he gives a crisp summary of the adhyaya in a paragraph, which is very difficult to summarize. So even from the standpoints of the acharyas also, we come to know that it is very hard to summarize every adhyaya in a crisp and readable way, in a very soulful way. That has been done. And the other one is, apart from the prose paraphrasing, he gives a verse content in few kandas, or at least even one kanda padya, he gives the content. DVG was adept in samasa and vyasa, as Kshemendra says. A gifted poet will be capable of wielding his pen both in the expansive way and even in the contracting way. That is the hallmark of DVG, and that has been carried out. In some other translations, these verses of DVG were completely sidelined. They were, of course, for many reasons unknown. But here, every word of DVG has been kept intact, and the quintessence of it, with all faithfulness and readability, has been preserved. In that regard, the poetic content of Jivana Dharma Yoga is preserved. DVG himself writes in the beginning, why this versification, traditional versification? He says, they have their own charm and their own time-tested beauty. Apart from that, Kavana Nenapige Sulabha, he himself says in his Mankuti Manakagga, versification makes us remember things well. Mukhastha Vidya Vidya. Only when we have the things at the tip of our tongues, they will be real expressions of our knowledge, and that has been taken care of by DVG through these verses, Kanda, Vritta, and other things. And then, in the beginning itself, in the Sankhya Yoga, that is Tattva Viveka Yoga, as Professor Kannan also mentioned, for every chapter he has new name, but he has not sidelined the earlier one. Sankhya Yoga emba Tattva Viveka Yoga. Like that. Karma Yoga emba Swadharma Yoga. This is Haleberu Hosachiguru. He never disposes the earlier one. At the light of that, he builds newer one. Periyar Kattida Manayam Muriyade Vistariparalti Tatkula Jatar. That's why it is Prakrita Karunya Yoga. He goes to Yamunacharya. Yamunacharya, the mentor, the guru of Bhagavad Ramanujacharya, he mentions that Arjunasya Prakrita Karunyam, like that. And that has been taken by DVG. Like that, in all these adhyayas, DVG draws heavily from all the acharyas, Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, and even from the Western writers. In the 18th chapter, perhaps, I think, he draws lines from Pippa Passes, a beautiful poem, a philosophical poem from Browning. And then, in the same chapter, he draws few lines from Milton's On His Blindness. Like that, he is equally free to use any line from the Western literature, whether it is from the Greek tragedies or Plato's philosophy, or even from the lines of Umar Khayyam, the Middle East countries' prophetic writer. These things are very easy. They were all at the fingertips of DVG. This is how he has given a wonderful spectrum of all the knowledge of East and West in the guise of writing a commentary. And this is not just for exhibitionism. He has done with the true intent, genuine intent of communicating the things properly. Often and often he says, Rujjutatparya, Rujjuvartha Grahana. This is very important. What is the true meaning? What is the true intent of that? And there, in the second chapter in the Tattva Viveka Yoga, he gives the important words, a list has been made, and also the definitive meaning of them, definitive explanations of them. For example, what is dharma, what is swadharma, what is paradharma, what is vidharma, what is karma, what is akarma, and what is meant by desha, what is meant by kala. Very beautiful explanation. Only some works like Lakshana Sangraha and such things which are available in Sanskrit, they may do justice. But TVG has distilled all the wisdom of the past from the seers, and he has redefined them properly. And by going through those few pages itself, we will be coming to know how great is our philosophy and how precise is that and how specific is that. In that light, the rest of the deliberations are being made. Here and there, he ponders over beautiful upakathas, upakhyanas, very enjoyable, juicy anecdotes also. He brings in from the daily life. And also here and there, quotations from the poets. And then quotations from saint poets like Tyagaraja and others. That is how the whole Gita Tatparya has been made very interesting. Above all, the name itself is very important. He has given two names, like the two names for every adhyaya, Jivana Dharma Yoga or Bhagavad Gita Tatparya. It is Bhagavad Gita Tatparya. Tatparya means Tatparasya Bhavaha. Tatpara means what? It has two meanings. One is something connected to it, something supportive of that, and then something which is the essence of it. Something which is the core of it, and that which is connected with the essence, that which is connected with the inner feeling and the concept of becoming and having become, that is seen in the Bhagavad Gita Tatparya. And then all other earlier acharyas, in the very words of DVG, says, without demeaning them, without disrespecting them, for them Jivana Bhagavad Gita was moksha dharma. It is meant for moksha, because they were saturated. They had enough of the world, or they didn't even wanted the world in all its mundane sense, and that's why they were all moksha gaminaha. But he says moksha is a distant vision to us. Here and now is the world which is around us, which is within us as well. And so we have to cope up with this world, and that's why Jivana is very important, and hence it is Jivana Dharma Yoga. Bhagavad Gita is a sadhana shastra in that sense, because we have Siddhi Shastras like the Upanishads. It is they are the words of the Siddhas. Why? Even in the array of Gitas, various Gitas, Avadhuta Gita, Ashtavakra Gita, Pandava Gita, Monkey Gita, like that, there are many Gitas. But take for the example of Avadhuta Gita. It is nothing but the inspired exclamations of Mokshananda of a Jnani, Jivan Mukta. I have seen the heaven, I have tasted that food, I have listened to that music, I have enjoyed that play. That's how people will be exclaiming that. And they are true, and their words are true, and their enjoyment is also befitting. In spite of that, what we get, if somebody is going on with pages and pages about his joy, what he'll be getting, we should make know about that. Some sample taste of that has to be provided for us. And that's why it is become Jivana Dharma Yoga, and Gita Shastra in that sense, it is Sadhana Shastra. And it is not Upadesh Shastra, it is not Tarkapada, it is Kriyapada or Anubhava. That's how DVG has emphasized on Jivana Dharma. It's not about dead Dharma, Mrata Dharma, it is Jivana Dharma. And so there are many commentaries available on Bhagavad Gita in many languages, starting from the commentary of Shankar Bhagavad-pada, the oldest available one. Even now, many people would have been writing it. But among them, those commentaries, traditional and modern, this has a very, very unique position. This has a coveted position, and DVG would never be hesitant to say that his work has some relevance. He says, Mailige avaniಗೆ ಮಡಿಯ ಕೆಲಸ ಬರುತ್ತದೆ. But we are all people of Mailige. We have to indulge in madi, and DVG has done it. And that's why I commend Srimati Sri Lalita and Sri Raghavendra Hebbalalu for accepting my request and doing this wonderful job. And Preksha has done really a great work through the translations of DVG. Whether Preksha will get a place, a humble or modest place in the in the world of scholarship or in the world of Indian wisdom or not, I don't know. It is the future to say. But with the translations of DVG's Jivana Dharma Yoga, Jnapak Chitrashale and others, it will earn its own coveted place. And for aiding that, I again commend and thank Sri Raghavendra and Sri Lalita. Now coming to the essential Ramayana, it is adding to the series of the essentials, essential Sanatana Dharma, essential Mahabharata. Now it is essential Ramayana, and in the near future will be coming out with the essential Brihat Katha. These three works, Ramayana, Mahabharata and Brihat Katha, they act like the three eyes of the Mahadeva of Indian culture. Here is one eye, Ramayana. There may be many epics which may contest for the position of the earliest in the world literature. But the first and the most cultured epic is Ramayana. The most cultural epic is Ramayana. Most Susanskrita Kavya is Ramayana. In many other epics, including Mahabharata, we see the real aspect of the world, and the ideal aspect of the world may have to be searched, and that may be suggested here and there, undertone or overtone may be revealing that. But in Ramayana, the very nature of it, the very flow of Ramayana is idealistic in nature. Why we need ideals? Because realism is always with us. Realism is too much with us. But idealism is a distant future, is a mirage-like vision, and that has to be materialized. For that we need Ramayana. And Ramayana is having three names: Sitaya's Charitamahat, Paulastyavadha and Ramayana. The very character of Sita, the very journey of Sita, Sita Yascharitam, means a pious but strong lady's character and conduct, that is Ramayana. And where she walked in the footsteps of Rama. Ramasya ayanam Sita Yascharitam. Charita means movement. Where it should happen? It should happen in some way. And that way is Rama's. And so people who think of Rama and Sita as two independent entities, they have no business with Ramayana. They may have anything else anywhere, but not in Ramayana. And then Paulastyavadha. Ramasya ayanam, the path of Rama and Sita Yascharitam, the conduct of Sita, they should forge well and reach that state, and they should achieve Paulastyavadha. The very word Paulastya is suggestive. He hailed from the lineage of Pulastya Brahma, Pulastya Prajapati. He hailed from the very lineage of Chaturmukha Brahma. In spite of that, he became an humanizer. What a calamity, what a paradox it is. And that thing has to be warded off, and that evil has to be warded off. And so Ramayana is an epitome of that ideal. There are many condensed versions and compact versions of Ramayana. Perhaps this is very, very unique for its own merits. One thing, it is authored by a person who has read every shloka of the original. There are many, many people who write condensed versions of Ramayana, Mahabharata, why even enlarged versions of Ramayana and Mahabharata without reading the original. They are always going to the secondary and tertiary sources. He is going to the right Gangotri or even Gomukha now, because Gangotri is receding, and that's why it is from the Gomukha has taken. And the other one is, many people, while writing such abridged versions of Ramayana, they are just content with the available popular editions of Ramayana, whether it is Gorakhpur or Kumbhakonam, such things. But he has gone through, not just gone through, he has studied and constantly referred to and adhered to the critical edition of Ramayana, which is edited under the tutelage of G.H. Bhatt, Professor G.H. Bhatt from Baroda, Gaikwad Oriental series. From that publication he has, and where all the other recensions, Pathantaras, have been given. This is perhaps unique. There may be translations of the critical editions, but no dependable abridgments of the critical edition in English. Yet another thing is, as Kannan mentioned, it has a very, very deep and insightful, long introduction, preface. That preface itself goes to some 69 pages. Very, very insightful, very useful. It will clear all the doubts and all the questions about Ramayana. Many misnomers about Ramayana are going to be cleared by that. Apart from clearing of the misnomers, that is something like pulling away and keeping aside, cutting off all the weeds. After de-weeding, we should plant something. This is very important. Many times, our enthusiasts will be just Khandekopadhyayas. This is wrong, this is wrong, this is not useful, like that. But what is useful, they are not replacing them with the better ideals, better choices. And Arjuna has done that also by showing the poetic beauty of Ramayana, the popularity of Ramayana, and the culture of Ramayana, the extent of Ramayana, not only in India, in the greater Indian scenario, how it has been done. In this, so, the beauty of Ramayana and the truth of Ramayana both are revealed in that very, very insightful and revealing introduction. And then we have the detailed appendices where we have the glossary of unfamiliar terms. Even this Jivana Dharma Yoga too contains. Every publication of Preksha, generally it contains such glossary of words. Thanks to again Hari Ravi Kumar. He planned that and he executes it. His Karta, Karayita, Prerayita, everything. We are just Anumodakas. Om, that's all. And then he has given a list of secondary sources which can be referred to in understanding Ramayana in a greater detail. This is how it has been made very useful apart from readable. Then another thing is, many a times the miraculous aspects of Ramayana, the supernatural aspects of Ramayana, and the so-called spiritual aspects of Ramayana, they come to the forefront, and the humane feature of Ramayana, the poetic aspect of Ramayana is missed. Fortunately, that has not happened here. As Arjuna, perhaps among our friends, often Shashi will be saying, Arjuna has a keen sense of recognizing Dhvani instantaneously. It has become his very nature. Dhvaniragi, Sarvatra Dhvaniragi, immediately jumps to the place where we have suggestion, where we have beauty, where we have multi-layered meaning, connotations available, and that sensitive reader makes the things better than any other scholar. And Arjuna has done it. Because while writing a Shastra like Jivana Dharma Yoga, we need life experience. Coming to Sri Lalita and Raghavendra, I have seen them being very honest. They are committed, they are hard-working, and they demonstrate the values of Sanatana Dharma. Not just as individuals, as a family, as children of their parents, children to their parents, and parents to their children. From both the ends, they are not only successful, they are meaningful as well. And that makes the translation more readable, more important, and more valuable. So also, this essential Ramayana of Arjuna, it has never ignored the poetic beauty of Ramayana. Poetry and art, they are the first casualties in any country, in any state. Unfortunately, that has been happening even in spite of so many efforts going on in the direction of resurrecting Sanatana Dharma. Finer aspects of culture, that is art, literature, they are the first casualties. Because everyone is kripana phalahetavaha. They are mean and fruit-oriented, but art is process-oriented like life. Nothing is closer to life than art. Nothing is closer to life than literature, as literature is one among the cherished art forms. Arjuna has never missed this. And here again, in Jivana Dharma Yoga, to what extent a Shastra can become poetry, that has been done by Bhagavan Sri Krishna himself. It is Kavya Shastra. Kshemendra, Bhojaraja and others, our masters before 1000 years, they told that this Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, they are Kavya Shastra or Shastra Kavya. And DVG rightly recognizes that and follows it and makes much more enjoyable and much more rasanirбhara. And that's why Sri Lalita and Raghavendra, they being artists, they being poets, they having full of sahridayatva within their hearts, they made this translation very enjoyable from the art perspective also. Generally it is said, poets are liars, but they declare that they are lying. But here it is not so. If at all there is anything lie, that lie is only with respect to the mundane format of it. The suggestion is a greater truth. Why poets adopt a fanciful language, an ornate language? It is only to point towards the highest truth, that is rasa, as highest truth cannot be expressed deliberately, expressed in a quantified manner. And so, if they err in that direction, it is the error of the language, it is the error of the expression, and not of the translators. With these few words, I thank you once again. Thank you.
Again, I'd like to call Shri KBS Ramachandra to give a token of gratitude to Shatabdani Dr. R. Ganesh. So the books which are available outside, as I have mentioned earlier, has a special discount of 25%, which is only for today. So people who are interested can avail that. So we come to the last part of our event, which is to thank everyone. So I'd like to call Shri K.S. Chandrasekhar to deliver the vote of thanks.
Namaste. We have come to the very last part of the program. I'm sure we had a great morning today, and all of us really enjoyed the book release. Thank you very much. This is, of course, the last part. This is a very important part for us because this is the vote of thanks. It is my honor and privilege to be extending the vote of thanks on behalf of Preksha. Firstly, I would like to thank Professor K.S. Kannan, who kindly accepted to be our chief guest today. Thank you very much, sir, for being here amidst us for this book release, and thank you very much for your illuminating and very insightful review of the books. Thank you. Next, I would like to thank Shatabdani Dr. R. Ganesh. Of course, we always fall short of words trying to thank him. I know it is very redundant to say anything to thank Dr. Ganesh. And as the authors themselves have acknowledged, and as we have always said, nothing of this would have ever been possible without Dr. Ganesh. So thank you very much, sir. He has always been our backbone and the true guidance in whatever Preksha is doing. Thank you very much, sir. And next, I would like to thank all of the authors of the books that were released today. I would like to start with, maybe on this side, Arjun Bharadwaj, Srimati Sri Lalita Raghavendra and Raghavendra Hebbalalu, and Harish Kumar and Arjun Sharma. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, all of you. And then I would like to thank Kashyap Naik for the invocation today. And of course, I should not forget, I should thank Dr. Ganesh specifically for the lecture itself. That was, I mean, the foundation for the work itself, for the book itself. Okay, thank you very much. Of course, and next I would like to thank Hari Ravi Kumar. I'm sure we have heard all of the authors acknowledging the great work that Hari has been doing. If the books have been so presentable, so likable, so readable, it is certainly due to the work of Hari Ravi Kumar. His meticulous work, it is, I mean, it's only that which has actually made it so beautiful and wonderful. Thank you, Hari. And Preksha is blessed to have great luminaries and great distinguished scholars as our mentors and advisors. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank Nadoja S.R. Ramaswamy. Thank you very much, sir. He has always been there to help us and guide us. I'd like to thank Dr. Bhairappa, Dr. L.V. Shantakumariji, Dr. Satyavati, Dr. S.R. Leela, and Sandeep Balakrishna. Thank you very much. It is our great honor that we have such wonderful luminaries as our advisors. And I would like to extend my thanks to the donors, Development Foundation, who has been supporting us in all of our endeavors. And there are many benevolent friends who have been contributing and donating to us. I would like to mention Dr. Sudhakar Joyce and our own friend Neelakanta. I don't know if he's here. And Avinash, thank you very much. And I would like to next thank our chartered accountant, Mr. Srinivas Rao, and the Saranga website, who are actually hosting the entire Preksha online journal. I would like to thank Mrs. Sumana. She is managing the entire social media content for Preksha. I would like to also thank the printers, Rashtrattana Sahitya and Gayatri Prints. Rajnish is here. So thank you very much. Rashtrattana Sahitya is not only our printer, they are also our primary publishers now. So thank you very much. And last but not the least, I should certainly thank Gokhale Institute. They have always been supporting. And yes, I will do that. Yeah, yes. And yeah, Gokhale Institute. Thank you very much. And of course, I should not forget to thank our MC for today, Dr. Raghavendra GS, and Shashi Kiran, who has been doing all the meticulous arrangements for the event. Thank you very much. Thank you one and all. Have a great day. Thank you.